Hello and welcome to our demonstration of reporting for ArcGIS Online administrators. My name is Jacob Lias, and my colleague Peter and I are going to go through the topic of administrative reports in ArcGIS Online. And to start things off, I'd like to provide a little bit of background information about administrative reports. So, ArcGIS Online has a variety of administrative reports that allow administrators to gain insight into the items, members, activity, and credits used across the organization. Administrative reports were first introduced to ArcGIS Online back in 2020, and today, Peter and I are going to walk you through the following scenarios. First, we're going to use the ArcGIS Online interface to explore some of the different administrative reports. After that, we're going to explore the reporting API to programmatically run reports. And then finally, we're going to implement the ArcGIS API for Python to search for and download an existing report. So let's jump into using the interface. And the first thing that we're going to have to do is log into your ArcGIS Online organization as an administrator. So here you can see I'm at the home page of my ArcGIS Online organization, but the next thing we'll have to do is go to the organization overview. From here, we're going to go to the status page. Now at the top, you can see there are two sections, one for dashboard and the other for reports. The dashboard is the default page, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with this view. The dashboard is great for interactively visualizing data across various components of ArcGIS Online. You can even export the usage data from here. Though the usage report requires a lot of manual refinement outside of ArcGIS Online in order to really get what you need. As a result of this, let's head over to the Reports tab to take a closer look at how administrative reports can provide you with more detailed information for specific components. In the Reports section, you will see all previously run administrative reports in your organization. The table uses the same principles as My Content, and you can filter and sort this table to find specific administrative reports that already exist in your organization. For example, you can filter by report type. You can also filter by date created. There are some quick select dates, and then there's also the custom range. It's also worth noting that here in this page, you can download any of the previously run reports in your organization. This will download a CSV file that you can open in Excel and process in any way that you want. You can also go to the item details page for any of these previously run reports. Let's check out this one. So the item details page here is similar to other pieces of content. You can see who the author is, when it was created, number of downloads. Your action item is to download it. You can share it to your organization, but it's worth noting that you can't share this to the public. So now that we're familiar with the item details and some of the look and feel of the Reports tab, let's have a look at what happens when we create a report and what kind of options we have. So we'll click Create Report. And by default, we list the item report, which is basically just a snapshot of all the items that exist in your organization at the time of running the report. The member report is similar to the item report in that it's merely a snapshot of all the members that are available in your organization at the time you run this report. The credit and activity reports are a little bit different in that they allow you to specify a time duration. So let's click on activity as an example. In the activity report, we can now see that we have to specify one of three durations. If you click the drop-down, you'll have an option for month, week, and day. By default, we have month. You will see that with each different duration, the interface will change to account for the date specification. So if we go to week, it'll change to year, month, and start date. And if we go to day, we'll have a calendar picker that lets us choose a day. For month, You can only specify a month that has completed. It is not possible to specify the current month that is in progress. It is currently February 9th, so therefore I can't choose February 2021 as a duration for the activity report. Similarly for week, you can only specify the start date for a week that has completed. So for January of 2021, we can click the start date dropdown and see that all of the weeks are available because January has completed in its entirety at this point. If we try the same for February, only the first week of February has been completed at this point. Again, today is February 9th, so we can only specify the first week. As you may have glimpsed before, the same behavior applies to the day duration. When you click Open the Calendar Picker, you can't pick today, the 9th, but you can pick the 8th. Of course, you can't pick any dates in the future for any of these reports because there isn't any activity to report for the future. So let's try something. Why don't we try the activity report for last Thursday? We can rename the report at this point. By default, it says Organization Activity Day. Let's just get rid of organization and we'll run it. So at this point, Pending Reports opens a button here, and if you click on it, it will show all the reports that are still running in the background. Once the report is done running, this window will change to say all pending reports have been completed. You can close it and see that this latest report is now at the top of the table. Again, as we discussed before, you can download it, you can open the item details. Let's download it and take a look. We'll open this in Excel. Here we go. There's a couple of different things that have been reported in activity from last Thursday. But this is just a showcase organization, so there might not be a whole lot of activity or things to show in the actual reports themselves. To just go over it again really quickly, let's run another report. This time, just the item report. We'll leave the default name as it is, and let's create report. You'll get the success message and the pending reports button. You don't necessarily have to click this. The table will update once the report is done, but we wanted to put this here just so that it would be a little bit more visually, a good visual signal that something's actually going on. So here it is. It has run. We can download this. And let's open it up. And yes, there's a much more data in this particular org in the way of items themselves as opposed to, activity. So yeah, that's just a brief overview of the interface. As you can see, there's plenty of different ways that you can learn more about what's going on in your organization between the 4 different types of administrative reports. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Peter, and he's going to showcase a couple of examples on how you can use the reporting API to programmatically run reports. He's also going to go over how to implement the ArcGIS API for Python to search for and download an existing report. Take it away, Peter.
Thanks, Jake, for introducing us to reporting. So, as Jake mentioned, there are 4 types of reports. We have the items report, members report, credits report, and activity report. And these all can be generated programmatically through the report API. So there are some additional parameters for the credits and activity report, but besides that, all the parameters are essentially the same. And with that introduction, I will get into a demo of the reporting API. Okay, so here I am in Postman going to send some REST requests to the report API. If we pay attention to this URL right here, this is the endpoint for the report. This org is a WXT organization, so this will be yourorg.maps.arcgis.com. It will not be .mapsdevx.arcgis.com. and we can see the parameters here for the items report. We have the output as prettified JSON. Report type is org. This will be consistent for each of the reports. And report subtype as content. We just have to include a valid token as well. So let's go ahead and send this request. And we can see that it gets returned with an item ID and that it is processing. And it has some other properties here as well. This status processing value can be queried, and if you choose to automate this, what you'll probably want to do, especially if you have a much larger organization where a report could take a longer amount of time to generate it until it's ready for download, is you'll want to check that report status. So let's jump into that right now. So I'm going to make sure to get my item ID here, and I'll go into check report status. So the only parameters for this request are just the token and the format, but I will go ahead and insert this recent item that I just generated, this items report, and let's go ahead and send this and see what the status of our report is. So we can see now that it's completed. So if you are going to be downloading this report, it's important that you verify that the status is completed first. So we've seen the items report. Let's jump into the members report. These parameters are identical to the items report, except the report subtype parameter will have a value of users. So we can send that one. And again, it returns an item ID and a status. One thing I should note is that this check report status URL, this is sharing REST content / users, whereas all of the report generation URLs are sharing REST community users. So there is a slight difference there. So let's go ahead and check out the activity report now. So you'll notice we have the same parameters as before. This time the report subtype is activity, and we also have time duration and start time. So for the activity report, you can choose a time duration of daily, weekly, or monthly. If you choose a time duration of weekly, the start time has to be on a Sunday or Monday. If you choose a time duration of monthly, that start time has to be the first day of the month. And this start time parameter, it accepts the time in milliseconds, so epoch time in milliseconds. So how can we find that? Let's go to a timestamp converting tool. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a date here. Let's do April 19th, 2020, and we'll just say that it is at we'll do this. Okay, so April 19th, 2020 at noon, and we'll convert that to a timestamp. Grab the timestamp in milliseconds, so we can see that this is a Sunday, and we'll go ahead and input this value here. And it is important to keep in mind that the report engine only looks at UTC time or GMT time. There aren't going to be conversions to local time. So what you put into the engine, that will be interpreted as UTC time. So let's go back to Postman and use this value. So this is a Sunday, so we would expect that this will work for generating a weekly report. And let's say send. So again, we get the expected response with the item ID and the status. And we can also keep track of this type. It's an administrative report. You'll see in the next section how you can search for an administrative report. And let's also grab this timestamp again and see finally what the credits report call looks like. So again, we have time duration, start time. These are those additional parameters for the activity report and the credits report. So we'll include this value and go ahead and send that request. So we have generated each type of report using the report API, and we've also checked the report status using that check report status using the status request. So we can see that right here. It's just asking for the status. And now that we've generated the reports, let's see how you can search for them and download them using the ArcGIS API for Python. Now that we have generated the reports with the report API, we can use the ArcGIS API for Python to search for the report that we want and then download it. And there's a lot of fine-grained control over the reports that are downloaded with search. You can control the sort order of the list. You can specify a query for the type of report that you want to find. You can look at the report that was most recently modified or the oldest report. There's a lot of flexibility there, and the search method in the ArcGIS API for Python is very well documented. So I highly recommend looking at all those different parameters so you can tailor searching for those reports exactly for what you need to do. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like in a Jupyter Notebook environment. So here I am in a Jupyter Notebook, and we're going to use the ArcGIS API for Python to search for and download each type of admin report. So the first step here is to connect to the GIS. Most of you familiar with the ArcGIS API for Python will recognize this, but this just essentially connects to your ArcGIS Online organization. And I'll enter my password. And we'll continue on. This first search query will search for all 4 types of administrative reports. So this will find items, members, credits, and activity reports. You can look at the ArcGIS API for Python search documentation for more info, but basically what we're doing here is looking for administrative report item types. It is its own type of item, as we saw when we looked at that response when creating a report in Postman just a little bit ago. So you can search for that item type, and then we're just doing some sorting. We're sorting on when the report was created, descending, so this will be the latest report first, and returning a max of 100 items. So let's search for those reports. And we can actually see the 4 that I just generated. So these are the organization members and items, and the credits and activity from Sunday, April 19th, 2020. And there are several other that I've generated in here too. But let's say that you want to specify only the account activity reports in your search query. So in this case, we need to specify a query parameter and we're going to look for a type keyword. And the type keywords we're looking for is the account activity report key. So all these report key type keywords, these are going to be what you want to configure your query to search on. And again, we'll sort the list in the same way. And we can see here this returns all of the activity reports. And the same concept applies for credits, items, and members. So we have the report key account credits for the type keywords, report key account content, and report key account users. So let's run these 3 cells just to see this in action. So we have all our credits reports, and we have our items reports, and lastly we have our members reports right here. So the final step, now that we have all of these lists of reports, is deciding which one to download. So since this is a list and it is an array, we can use indexing to take the first item of the array. And since it's sorted in descending order, we know that the first item will be the most recently generated report. So in this case, I'm going to pull the latest report from the members report list, and we'll expect this to be the administrative report that I created in Postman a few minutes ago. Okay, so we can see that February 9th, 2021, that's today, and we will set the download path. And this is the only other API for Python function that I'm using here, is this download. So this is a method on an item. So latest report is the item, and you can just say .download and specify the download path. I should mention where search is. Search is part of the content manager in the ArcGIS API for Python. You can access it with your GIS, which is set up here, .content.search. Again, I highly recommend looking at the API for Python guide and reference on searching and downloading items. All that information is there. So you can also set the name if you want to overwrite a local file on Drive, but we're just going to download a new file. So let's set the download path to a location on my machine. And the final step is to download the report. And it tells me where it is. So let's go ahead and open up File Explorer and see what that looks like. So I'm in the folder that I've downloaded the members report to. I can see that it's right here, and we can open it and see what it looks like. And yeah, we have all this information about the members in the ArcGIS Online support dev.ext organization. So that is how you can use search and download from the ArcGIS API for Python to quickly and easily search for and download any administrative report in your organization.
Thanks for that demonstration, Peter. It's very much appreciated. So at this point, I'm going to go back to the presentation to just showcase a couple of links or web pages that I think would be really helpful for additional context and more information just generally about all the administrative reports, when they were introduced, what all the fields actually mean, and just further step-by-step processes that I think would be really helpful to reference. Again, as mentioned, here's our documentation on creating and accessing reports. Here's the documentation for all of the report fields, so what every single field means in each of the administrative reports. You can find that referenced here. And these 2 links at the end here are blogs that detail the original announcement for administrative reports, as well as some of the updates that came after the fact. So there's a good story around those administrative reports in the blog that I think would be really good to check out. just for better understanding.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation, and I hope it gets you on your way to generating all 4 types of administrative reports, searching for them, and downloading them. So let us know what you thought of it by clicking the link below the session. Thanks.